As you watch this video, it's 5 a.m. I just worked 4 days in a row at my 9-to-5 job, and so I'm doing a track-by-track playthrough, or not playthrough, but a breakdown of the upcoming Zion Code record, which will be released Friday, July 15th via all streaming platforms as well as the Bandcamp. And it will be premiering the entire third record, Judas, via Headbanger Channel on YouTube. Shall we begin this shindig with shenanigans of the upcoming record, Judas? So a little bit of history behind Zion Code. Zion Code was formed initially as Swallowed by Apathy back in the winter of 2009 after the disbanding, or 2010 rather, of the disbanding of my band Voltaria well, it wasn't my band. Well, it kind of, I don't know, just a local band. Anyhow, so after Voltaria split up, me and my buddies, Brandon and Blaine, formed a band called Swallowed by Apathy. I didn't realize at the time, after going to see all the remains and asking Alexandria, that Swallowed by Apathy would be a thing, but after all the remains played a set, and we were kind of disappointed as kids because they didn't play anything we wanted to hear, and let's face it, Asking Alexandria did a better job. We decided we were going to go against the grain, and rather than playing like our normal stuff, where, you know, Voltaria for me was a thrash metal band, I wanted to go more of a melodic death metal progressive route. So that's how that all started. Then at 18 years old, I went to Cleveland, cut a record. We had Chris Clancy of Mutiny Within, Rhode Island recording artist, producing us. And Eric Greif, Death's former manager, had given us permission to cover Crystal Mountain on the first record. Fast forward to 2011, we released our first record, Genesis. And then things happened, and the band split. Then in 2020, that December, during the beginning of the pandemic, me and Brandon Ball decided to reform Swallowed by Apathy. We did a record called Transcendence with our good friend Tiara. She played bass on that record somewhat and did guest vocals on the song. But after that, we realized the production value and the label we were signed with at the time wasn't really our cup of tea. Me and Tiara were both struggling, me and Brandon were both struggling. We all kind of were getting ready to really be old people, as some of you young folks would call us, and we needed a change. So the band finally split, but me and Brandon weren't ready to give up, so we started Zion Code the same year. And not even 5 months after the release of Transcendence, we released the first Zion Code record, The Vibrance. That record did A-okay, I guess, in our circle of friends, but we weren't really backed by a label, nor did we take it as serious as we would eventually take it. I don't know, 5-6 months later when we released Savior. Around the time of Savior, I had a falling out with my best friend of 17 years and vocalist Brandon Ball. And, you know, even though we don't speak anymore, I have fond memories with him. And, you know, it's kind of a situation that I don't want to get into, but I will say the work he did on Savior was amazing. And immediately after we recorded Savior and released it, not even, I'd say, 2 days later, I was sitting there with my ex-girlfriend, who I'm still on good terms with. And me and her were talking, and I thought, you know what, I like Machine Head. I was listening to Blackening, I think, and I realized I didn't want to stop writing. So the first track that I wrote for the record was Iscariot, which I'll get into later. But anyways, the music started coming together real quickly, and before I knew it, that tail end of May of this year, not even a month after the release of Savior, the music was all written for Judas. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, and I'm going to explain each track. The first track is Arriving with False Optimism. That song came about initially not even intended for Zion Code. There's a real funny story behind that one. I wanted to make some symphonic video game music. I think I got a subscription to Arcade, which I didn't intend on paying for, but it happened. I had all these really cool samples and decided to make a symphonic piece for somebody's video game, and it didn't pan out, but that would become the intro to the record. Next up we have Alternate Routes. I'm gonna be real, this whole record runs together for me. There's so many riffs, but I do remember specifically Alternate Route was supposed to be called Track of View, and Brandon Ball initially wrote those lyrics and vocal melodies, and then after the disbanding of what was that line of the Zion Code, I decided to continue after relocating out of to a different city, and had to say kind of a similar vocal melody, but I wanted to change it all up. I was going to take over the lead vocals. Let's change it up. So with Alternate Routes, I just kind of went in my grandparents' car, took my laptop out there, pushed I record all my stuff on, and screamed my head off. And it was like 95 degrees that day here in Central Ohio, sweating, and just kind of wung the lyrics. I didn't really write them out. But yeah, Alternate Route, that's a death metal song, so it's got some melody. The next track is Darkness and Denial. That's one of that was actually the last track I finished the music to for this entire record, and then also one of the last ones I did vocally. Once again, I didn't pre-plan the lyrics, that just kind of came together. It's kind of got some black metal influence, I guess. Kind of a melodic death metal song, kind of slower, but Darkness and Denial is very a self-reflecting kind of song. Anyhow, you'll hear it when it comes out. I don't know much about that one either. I just know I wrote it and it came out. The Fatalist initially was released as a single earlier this year, probably beginning of June, tail end of May. I put The Fatalist out on platforms, but it wasn't the final mix. What you're going to hear on the record is a way clearer drum sound, way better guitar tones, and way better mixed vocals, tones and things. So with The Fatalist, I was kind of pissed off about the political climate in America. I'm not a political person. I'm not even taking sides on anything, but I do know I have certain things that I will speak out against. With The Fatalist, you know, there's a lot of connotations behind that title. It's kind of a track that represents all of us. We're all kind of lied to, but we're also kind of oppressed, especially people that are of different nationalities, races, and cultures and sexualities. And I thought, you know, The Fatalist is kind of from the point of view of somebody that sees the events around them, and the person who presents these events via media outlets or whatever, they're kind of the fatalist. They only view the bad and the negative without forcing any kind of agenda with these lyrics. It's more of an objective song. I like that one because it's got the cool black metal intro to the verse, and it's got a really nice, clean sang chorus that kind of reminds me of Into Eternity a bit, I guess. Next up is Iscariot. That was the first track I wrote musically for the record. Iscariot would become the subject matter for the title of the record, which is Judas. Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus Christ in the Bible, and it's just kind of a song about losing a friendship and disconnecting from someone you thought was your best friend, and betrayal and things. It's not really meant. I know a lot of people are going to wonder if I actually wrote that about my former singer. Yes and no. I think I was a little upset, but when I wrote Judas, I was sitting in my, I was just sitting in a relative's house, and she kind of told me, sing clean, I don't want you screaming on this. So it's a 10-minute song, it was the first single initially. The final mix on the album is going to be a lot different, but she kind of guided me through with the process, and hence Judas happened. Or Iscariot, rather. That track has a lot of cool stuff. Brandon Ball, the initial vocalist, played keyboards on the intro. He had like this flute thing. We took a MIDI keyboard and he was running the pitch, and we added some effects, and it was kind of cool. Very influenced by Machine Head on the Blackening. A lot of interlude riffs, a lot of big choruses. Just a really badass track. I also free versed that one. I think The Fatalist I actually wrote lyrics for, but the other tracks, for the most part, were all freestyle, just raw emotion. Next up, we have the Odalisque. The Odalisque. So the title Odalisque can mean so many different things. For me, I felt like I wanted to write a fantasy song about someone who is being trafficked sexually or exploited sexually, kind of getting vengeance on their abuser. Odalisque simply means a harem or a slave, most likely female, but not necessarily. And I wanted them to kind of get some kind of vengeance on their attacker. And that's that. That song came out. That was a difficult one to write because when I initially finished the music, the guitars, the drums weren't even like where I wanted them. I felt like it was almost too many ideas at once, but it ended up coming out great once the vocals were added. It kind of got a somewhat of a Metallica Testament, violence, creator, 80s thrash metal vibe with some death metal shit. The chorus is very Symphony X influenced. It's got some like Annihilator influence too. This is a weird one. Christ Cunt. Christ Cunt was recorded at 225 BPM when I did the music for that, and I will tell you right now, harmonizing and locking in those guitars was an absolute fucking nightmare. I actually injured my hand recording that song. I couldn't play for about a month and a half afterwards, and it was around the time my buddy Amyr Abadawn had sent me a nice Jackson 7 string, so I couldn't play it all for a month and a half. And Amyr's a good guy, man. I love that guy. He's out of Singapore. If you get a chance to check out his music, link will be in the bio, or video rather. But with the song Christ Cunt, it's very much an angry, pissed off kind of track. It's my ex-wife and the church and the ones that kind of judged me when I was at a low point in my life, which is obviously how I've been on my healing journey, as well as not subscribing to a religion of any sort. So Christ Cunt, that's also kind of a new beginning for Zion Code, because we started out very Gnostic, spiritual, and this is a very blasphemous song. But it's not meant to target Christianity. It's more so about just hypocrisy. The cool thing about Christ Cunt for me is it's very Witherfall influence, and I'm an absolute massive fan of Jake Dreyer as a guitarist, so I put some of his influence in there. Initially, that track was going to be different, and I was going to have my buddy Ross Rubin sing on it, but with scheduling conflicts, mental health issues up here with me, and just overall believing I needed to get this record out with the label so I could take a much-needed break from Zion Code. I mean, we're still going to be around, but it's going to be a minute after this. Yeah, I think it's scoop. But with that song, I don't know. It's different, man. It's got a really cool chorus. It was actually the final track I laid down vocals for on this album. Finally, the final track, Lost and Coming Down. So I struck up a friendship, ironically, with one of my biggest influences, Joe, from the band Shady Enmity. Joe and I had been talking for a bit when I was couch surfing at a good friend of mine's, and I told him my situation. His heart is so massive, and he sends me this acoustic, old kind of clean track, and asks me to wing some vocals for it. And you have to imagine with him being in the Jeff Loomis band at one point, playing in Nevermore and being the main man in my favorite melodic death metal band ever, Shady Enmity, I was kind of starstruck, you know? So then I got the balls and asked Joe later on, because me and my friend Raven from Singapore, she was like, hey, I'll sing on one of your tracks. Well, and it didn't happen that way to become the album closer. But the funny story is, Joe and I were talking that day too, and I was showing him some of Raven's work, and he's like, I asked him, I said, do you have a method to record? Because I really want you on this. We didn't plan on it being a Zion Code song, but I knew I wanted to do something with him in that too. So he takes his laptop, goes in the bathroom of all places, I think, and records vocals via Bandcamp. And he had screamed through the door or something, and then voila, there's your vocal track. And I mixed it. I don't know if he thought it was going to suck, but actually we were both surprised at how well the EQ and mixing turned out. Friendly endorsement here, Howard Benson vocals by Joey Sturgis. That plugin works wonders. I hear Loomis actually likes that program, but I could be wrong. But Joe had penned lyrics and vocal patterns, because as soon as he heard the song, he's like, I got a chorus melody. And I was like, okay, you know, and it turned out really good. So that's that. You have Lost and Coming Down, the final track. That's all Joe's brainchild on the lyrics and vocal patterns. And also Raven Moon, she arranged it. With Lost and Coming Down, that was initially a Karmic Gray track, which is my other solo project. And it was written initially for my girlfriend at the time, who I still talk to, but we're not together. And yeah, so that's it. You guys pick up Judas when it comes out Friday, July 15th via From the Depths Entertainment. You can get it on Bandcamp, or you can save money and get all 3 records for a fraction of the cost. Look at me, I'm a car salesman. But yeah, that's basically it. I mixed and mastered this entire record. I did the artwork myself. Basically, I'm the guy, you know. But thank you guys for supporting Zion Code, and have a wonderful fucking night or day whenever this video drops. Cheers.